Dr. Fikeni, good morning. Thank you very much. You, on behalf, of course, of UNISA, your partners with the Steve Biko Foundation, as you prepare this 20th annual lecture, the Steve Biko Memorial Lecture, and it's going to be delivered by Reverend Al Sharpton. I mean, it's a significant moment. I mean, coming at this time in our country, coming at this time in the world. I mean, global pandemic, but we're seeing the rise in the Black Lives Matter movement as well. And we know what Bantu Stephen Biko stood for.
Certainly, this is the most fitting tribute to the legacy of Bantu Stephen Biko, because he fought and died fighting as a martyr who was fighting against racism, and he was calling for humanity, and he was calling for the end of racism. And a century later, which is now the 21st century, we see the rise across the world of identity politics and racism, hence the Black Lives Matter. And the most distinguished figure who has come to be the face of that particular moment is none other than Dr. Reverend Al Sharpton, who spoke in the memorial service and gave a eulogy in George Floyd in the US, which was watched across the world. And recently he organized the March on Washington as a commemoration of the 1963 Martin Luther King Jr. I Have a Dream. So this is the most fitting tribute by the most prominent figure and a relentless warrior in the fight against racism.
And the lecture will be delivered on Saturday, and people, of course, can register to follow it and participate. Will Reverend Al Sharpton be delivering this virtually?
He'll be delivering this virtually, though he had expressed that he would have loved to come and deliver in person. And believe you me, we will try by all means to make sure that we honor that by other means of making sure that when COVID-19 restrictions across the world are over, we find a way of bringing him back into the country. And at that moment, it could also help reflect on the transatlantic solidarity of Pan-Africanism that has reinforced mutually across the oceans this fight against racism.
You know, the brutal murder, assassination of Steve Biko, for some of us who were in high school in the 70s when it happened, sometimes it just feels like it just happened the other day, and one can recall all the gory details coming out over the years about the inhumanity of it all and how he was brutally beaten up by 5 policemen, and even a so-called doctor who was working with the apartheid regime, Dr. Lang, describing him as shaming, that he had nothing wrong. When we think about that kind of violence meted out on a man of peace, because that's what Bantu Stephen Biko stood for, he only wanted peace and racial equality. In today's South Africa, as we battle so many challenges, including this rubbish ad about black women's hair that we're busy with currently in the country, what should we take out of Bantu Stephen Biko's struggle for freedom?
The most important thing for Bantu Stephen Biko's struggle for freedom was the one of being prepared to pay the ultimate price for what he believed in. Hence, he said, to paraphrase him, "It is better to die for an idea that shall live, and it is living as we stand here today, rather than live for an idea that shall die." And also the scourge of racism, he had an incisive analysis of that. And more importantly than any other thing, he emphasized consciousness of those who are oppressed and consciousness of those who have false sense of superiority as the main thing, because it is the mind, it is the mindset that is the last frontier. Laws can change, regulations can be made, but ultimately it is our consciousness that is key to transform the situation.
Dr. Somadoda Fikeni. He's a project leader, and he'll also be the program director come this Saturday of the 20th annual Steve Biko Memorial Lecture to be delivered by American civil rights leader Reverend Al Sharpton virtually. It will be happening on Saturday at 5:30. That's the 12th of September.